100%, and it's everywhere. And it's like a celebrated poison, right? Like, we have a reason to cheer. Let's poison ourselves. So that's really when it started clicking for me, is like making those lifestyle changes for myself, becoming a parent, being more concerned about what we are feeding our kids than what we are feeding ourselves, right? Because that's oftentimes the gateway for our own personal lifestyle changes, is realizing what we're doing to our kids.
Welcome to the Semidey Dental Podcast. We're here to provide you expert insights on how dentistry can improve your quality of life and extend your health span. I'm Alex Semidey, and I'm a practicing dentist, and I'll be your host, along with Jeremy Wolf. Enjoy the show.
Welcome, Tooth Tribe, to the newest episode of the Semidey Dental Podcast. Hello, Mr. Wolf. How are you doing today?
Fantastic, as per the usual arrangement. Yourself?
I'm doing amazing. Ready to talk about a topic that's very near and dear to my heart.
Skittles? We're talking about Skittles today?
Skittles and sugar today.
Yeah. So, it's funny. For me, obviously, sugar plays a huge role in your childhood, but it's become somewhat of a love-hate relationship as I've gotten older. What does sugar mean to you, Alex?
I mean, what does sugar mean to a lot of us, right? Like, I don't know. For me, growing up, sugar was almost like an expression of love. Like, most of my positive experiences as a kid involved, sugar, like birthday parties or any sort of celebration. Everything's like sugar laden. I write this anecdote in the blog that one of my deepest childhood memories is walking it, like my mom giving me the equivalent of like $5 and just setting me loose in a candy store and just walking out with like a huge bag of pure sugar, right? Like ready to mainline like a pound worth of candy. And I feel like that's the relationship that a lot of us have with sugar, right? And it's definitely an area of medicine and research that's really growing fast, and just how much of an impact on our overall health our diet and sugar specifically has.
So for me, like I've known for a while now that sugar has negative repercussions. However, it's one of those things that you don't necessarily notice. It happens gradually. Like for instance, I had myself a little case of the munchies last night, and I consumed quite a bit of sugar. And I woke up this morning and I was walking the dogs, and I was not feeling well. I had brain fog and I was feeling kind of funky. And I asked myself, I was like, why am I feeling like this right now? And then I was reading the blog that you wrote on this, and it kind of set in. It was like, wait a minute, there's this huge link between what I'm putting in my body, especially late at night, and how I feel in the morning. For you, was there a point throughout your career, either in training or in practice, where this really, really clicked for you?
I think one of the biggest travesties in how we educate doctors is how little emphasis we put on nutrition. Mm-hmm. In general. My wife is a physician, and like her nutrition training in all of med school was like half a semester, right? Like you get a couple of classes.
It's crazy. It really is. It's bewildering.
It is absolutely insane. And for us, it's the same thing. And it's almost even like more limited. All right, sugar bad, give cavities, right? Like that's basically the extent of the training that we get. So for me, the sugar thing, because you always kind of know, okay, like you don't want to overdo it with sugar and it's not good for you and you can get diabetes, right? But like that all seems so far off. Yep. And honestly, it's been as I've gotten older, right? And I had those terrible sugar habits all my life. And now, I mean, not to say anything, right? But how many of us remember drinking too much, right? As like in our early 20s and kind of bouncing right back the next day and being okay, right? Maybe you go get
the good old days
Gatorade and you're good to go. And now you drink a little too much and you pay the price for like 3 days afterwards, right? Well, I was having the same sort of experience with sugar, right? I was a late night sugar binger, as many of us are, because it magically just tastes better after 11 o'clock. And I was waking up feeling stiff and achy and just off. Like I felt bad. And I was like, okay, well, what's going on? What can I change? All right, like maybe not gorging in sugar right before bed could be a good idea. And holy smokes, start cutting down on it and start feeling better. So that, as crazy as it sounds to like say it out loud, like that's actually what made it click for me, that this is very real and has a very real implication with what's going on in our bodies, right? And we're not immune to it, and we're not like invincible, right, towards sugar. Like we all know tobacco is bad, too much alcohol is bad. Sugar's right there, right? Like it is a poison.
It is poison, 100%.
100%, and it's everywhere. And it's like a celebrated poison, right? Like we have a reason to cheer. Let's poison ourselves, right? So that's really what, when it started clicking for me, is like making those lifestyle changes for myself, becoming a parent, being more concerned about what we are feeding our kids than what we are feeding ourselves, right? Because that's oftentimes the gateway for our own personal lifestyle changes, is realizing what we're doing to our kids.
100%, man. And it can be challenging in this day and age to really source the food that you're getting. I know when I go to Publix, maybe I shouldn't go to Publix, maybe I should be at Whole Foods, but when I go, if I start looking at the boxes and trying to assess what the ingredients are, well, I'll be there for like 5 hours, and it's just overwhelming. And then you read the list of ingredients, and you don't know. I'm like getting there and like putting ingredients on ChatGPT to try to figure out what it is. Like what are some of the things, some obvious things, right? That where sugar is hiding in plain sight, where you wouldn't think there was sugar in there, but it turns out that it's loaded with sugar and it's terrible for you.
Oh man, that is a really, really long list. And yeah, it's seriously in everything. Like my first piece of advice to myself, right? Like my mantra, if I go to Publix, is don't go to the middle lanes, right? Anything that comes in a bag, bottle, or box, avoid, because most likely it's going to have added sugar in it. And they're sneaky too, right? Like all these marketing companies, they will rename sugar something else, and you're like, oh, that sounds okay, and lo and behold, you're consuming a ton of sugar.
Not just the name either, the packaging, right? Like they it's a science. They make it just scream at you like it's healthy, and then you actually look at what's in it, you're like, what the hell is this?
Yes, absolutely. And you think you're doing all right, right? But you might as well be eating, a Crunch Bar.
Yeah. They should have they have rainbows and butterflies on the packaging, and sunlight and forests and trees. What they should have is a skull and crossbones.
Yeah, exactly. That's that. Yeah, we should propose that. Let's see how far it goes.
Yeah, right. So one of the things that was interesting to me was how there's this link between sugar and inflammation. So we've all heard about inflammation. But when I think about it, if you were to ask me, Jeremy, what is inflammation? I'd be hard pressed to really explain what that is. Can you just talk a little bit about like what inflammation is, and then how sugar fuels inflammation?
So sugar serves as like a trigger for the immune system, right? It's like the immune system is in charge of fighting off offenders in the body. Okay. And some inflammation is a good thing. Like acute inflammation is a good thing. It is your body's natural process of healing. So for instance, you cut yourself, right? And it gets a little red and a little puffy for a few days, and then it heals and it goes away, right? The process of inflammation is your body rushing blood flow to an area to bring in nutrients, remove debris, and help the area heal, right? That's acute inflammation. That's a good thing. What sugar in our diets do, and a lot of our lifestyle things do, is they trigger chronic inflammation. So your body constantly feels like it's under assault from something and just kicking like its immune system into gear, right? And this it can have effects everywhere in our body. Like we see things like autoimmune diseases that are skyrocketing, right? As our diets have evolved and become more refined, more processed with more sugars in it, and all sorts of different like systemic diseases that we see, that when you like superimpose the line graphs of how our diets have evolved and how these metabolic and autoimmune diseases have developed and grown, they like mirror each other perfectly, right? So it is tricking our body into thinking that it is under assault, and it's just launching this all-out response. And for some people, it can affect their skin more, right? Things like eczema and rashes. Like I personally my wife says I'm rashy, right? I break out in rashes if I overdo it with sugar. And for some people it's skin, for some people it's their gut health. For some people it's cognitive decline. Like it can affect all the different systems in our body.
And it can be very subtle, whereas you don't know how bad it is until it gets really bad. And then it can be very difficult to unwind, especially if you've gotten to a point where I know my wife was eating a lot of sugar as of late, and she did a huge detox, and she went through it for a period of time, but she feels so much better right now. Like infinitely better.
Yeah.
Night and day.
Better. Yep.
What about metabolic health? What's the link between sugar and metabolic health?
Yeah, so that kind of goes hand in hand with what we were just discussing here, that sugar creates this like systemic explosion, right, of your immune system. Now, we hear a lot about metabolic syndrome, right? And it's kind of it's tied in with diabetes. Everyone knows, all right, too much sugar, you get diabetes, but really, what is that? What's going on? So what we know is that when we repeatedly spike blood sugar levels, right, we create what's called a resistance to insulin. Insulin is this hormone that is intended in our body to regulate the blood sugar and keep things working well. If we overdo it with those spikes and with the sugar in our blood, we develop almost like an immunity to our insulin. And when that happens, we start seeing things like cell breakdown, like literally cells in our body start malfunctioning, right? Because they don't have this hormone that's helping them control what they need to do. And this happens, I mean, we know about diabetics with like poor wound healing, right? Like if you're a diabetic and you cut yourself, like your body just doesn't work well enough to heal something that it should normally heal well, right? Like if a diabetic cuts themselves, that cut is going to take much, much longer to heal than someone who isn't a diabetic. And that's an indication of how well the normal functions of the body are working.
We were running several months ago, and we had a conversation about this, and Alzheimer's came up, and you mentioned Alzheimer's as being referred to as type 3 diabetes. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so this is one of the things that personally interests me the most when it comes to the metabolic syndrome debate. If there's one thing that I'm terrified of is cognitive decline, Alzheimer's, dementia. And we are learning a lot about how these repeated spikes in blood sugar and insulin resistance leads to cell damage in the brain too, right? Like the brain is a part of the body. And this cell damage seems to be part of what leads to the tangles and the proteins, the tau proteins and tangles that lead to the neurons in the brain not communicating effectively, right? And that breakdown in communication of the nerves is what leads to the dementia, right? Is what is the dementia. It's what prevents our brains from working well. The same way your skin won't heal when you're a diabetic, it won't heal well, your brain starts to not function well. And let me make this caveat, because it's not as, causational that you eat sugar, you're going to get dementia, right? Like that's that's not realistic. There are several other factors. There are genetic predispositions to Alzheimer's and dementia, a host of other things, right? Trauma, many other factors. But that sugar and metabolic syndrome is directly linked with cognitive decline today is irrefutable.
Yes. You mentioned inflammation triggering the immune system. Can sugar play a role in autoimmunity?
In autoimmune conditions? Yeah, absolutely. Right? Because it tricks your body into thinking that it's under constant assault. So your immune system's like your body's army, right? And your body can either keep the army, in place, right? Like stay in your base, right? Or it can deploy the army into action, right? And go fight. We're under assault. Like let's fight back. That's what sugar ends up doing, right? It tricks your body into thinking it's under assault. It launches that immune response, and it's basically just attacking itself.
So it's safe to say that if you have, I'm just thinking of a friend of mine who had some significant autoimmune disorders and had all these issues. I'd imagine that the diet is a huge driving factor behind a lot of these conditions, is it not?
Yeah. And I mean, you see all sorts of, like I said, from a personal standpoint, right? I eliminated sugar from my diet for several months, and I'll be the first to admit it's crept back a little bit, not nearly to the extent where it was. And after this podcast, I'll probably,
eat some of them Skittles you showed us. Yeah.
What's that?
You get into some of those Skittles that you pulled out.
Yeah, exactly. But I've seen it myself, right? Cut down on the amount of sugar, direct correlation, feel better, less joint pain, less aches in the morning, less fatigue, less rashes, right? Like all of these things are just completely like gone. And there is tons of anecdotal evidence everywhere. The people that have suffered from chronic autoimmune diseases, Crohn's, eczemas, asthmas, that change their diet completely. Specifically, a lot of people that do the carnivore diet, where they completely eliminate any sort of processed sugars, carbohydrates, refined carbs, and they have not an improvement, but a complete reversal, right? Like it is totally gone. They get their lives back by changing their diet. Like I cannot overstate how important it is to really take into account what it is that we're eating and what we're putting in our bodies, right? Because our diets, the diets that we have available to us today are, 50 years old, and we're dealing with hardware that is a lot older than that, right? So our bodies just aren't built for the kinds of diets that modern society has put at our disposal.
Let's talk about our future, our children, and how sugar is affecting our kids. So what do parents need to know, right? Speak to parents out there. Because I myself, like everybody else, that has kids, 10 and 13 years old, I fall into that trap way too frequently, where I make available to them the things that I shouldn't make available to them. And when given the option, right, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, you open the refrigerator up, right, and there's something like sugary sweet snack there, and then a bag of grapes. We all know what the right choice is. Take the grapes, but something inside is like, well, I don't want that right now. I want to get that. But I just continue to do it. I'm at Publix. I see the buy one, get one free. I'm like, the kids will enjoy this. I want to give them sweets. Like, what do you say to parents out there? Smack me in the face, Alex. What do I need to do to course correct here and make sure that my kids are growing up healthy?
Yeah. It goes back to that establishing those connections, right? Like I was talking about earlier with my mom handing me the $5 to go into the candy store. Like that was an expression of love, right? Yeah. And sugar becomes this, let's do something fun. Let's do something good. Let's have some poison together, right? It's sanctioned poison. And it's unfortunate, right? And I'm not above it, right? And I'm not saying that we need to absolutely remove sugar 100% from our diets, that it is the most evil thing in the world. If we overdo it, yes, it leads to serious, right, like overall health risks. Is there a place to have some sugar with your kids? Sure, right? Like have a slice of cake during their birthday, right? Like have a cookie every once in a while. Like that's okay in moderation. It's not going to do a ton of harm, but the problem is that it's super addictive, right? So it's really hard to have just one, or to be like moderate yourself into how much sugar you're consuming. So step number one, right? Like if you want to cut down on sugars, when you go to Publix, don't buy it, right? Like see the BOGO, pass the BOGO, right? Just keep walking, right? Walking. If it's not there, it's not going to tempt you, right? And the grapes are going to look a lot better at that point.
And they're so good though. When you actually eat the grapes, I say to myself all the time, if the fruit is really good, I mean, there's sugar in there, right? Let's be honest, but it's natural, right? As long as you don't eat too much of that as well.
And it's a totally different, and let me make this caveat here, just to press pause real quick. It's a totally different, metabolically and biologically, very, very different for the body, right? Because you're not only getting the natural sugar from the grape, you're getting all the fiber that grape comes with that helps your body process that sugar and do a lot less harm. All right, so it is a totally different thing if you eat 5 grams worth of grape sugar versus 5 grams worth of Skittles sugar. Like to your body, the grape sugar, that brings nutrients, that brings, like certain chemicals and things that are good for the body. The Skittles just pure poison, right?
Well,
so
hold on. You just gave me an idea for a hack here.
Shoot.
Eat your Skittles with some Metamucil. Right? Is that
we'll have to conduct a randomized control study to see how that plays out.
Oh boy!
But going back to the kids real quick. Like I've said before, my wife is a pediatrician. She sees a lot of, obviously, her patient population are children, and one of the things that we see is like this skyrocketing in ADHD diagnoses, right? Her first stop when they are considering putting that label on a child is what's the diet like and how well are they sleeping, right? Because those two factors play intimately into how this kid's behaving, right? Like what is their mood like? What is their energy spikes and crashes like? What behavioral issues are they manifesting, right? And so much of it comes from the diet. And the insidious part is that you'll ask the parent, what's their diet like? Oh, it's healthy, right? Because they're buying bags and boxes that look healthy on the outside, right? And it says low fat or, no added sugars, right? But they're sort of rebranding that sugar into something else. And it's still this bad chemical that's in the food that we're giving our kids. So we need to be really, really aware of that.
I want to pull this back to the teeth, to dentistry. We all know that sugar causes cavities. It's almost cliche at this point, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a deeper connection here. I know we've talked a lot about the mouth being the gateway to everything else. And there's connection with oral inflammation. Talk a little bit about what sugar does to the teeth and the mouth beyond just cavities.
Yeah, for sure. So everyone knows that connection, right? More sugar equals more cavities. At least hopefully everyone knows that connection. But more sugar, like you said, has ramifications way beyond the cavities, right? The cavities is actually the easy part to manage and deal with. The sugar actually changes and affects it's called the microbiome, or the type of bacteria that you have in your mouth. It drives things like not only the decay, but gum disease, right? And it puts you on this cycle of inflammation in the mouth, right? Like we've talked about with overall body inflammation. Well, the same process happens in the mouth. The sugar is directly in the mouth, right? And it's fueling all of this bacterial activity that leads to the decay and the gum disease. Now, let's go down the gum disease route. So that bacteria starts building up, starts leading to inflammation. Your gums get a little puffy. You start developing pockets. Now the type of bacteria that you have in your mouth start to evolve and become more virulent, more dangerous, right, to your oral health. It leads to periodontal disease. Now you have an outright infection of the gums, right? And now that infection increases your risk for heart disease, things like stroke and heart attacks, things like dementia, right? So now you have a double whammy from the sugar and the bacteria in the mouth that can lead to cognitive decline, right? So like we tell patients in the practice all the time, your fork matters as much as your toothbrush, okay? What we are putting in our bodies, what we are eating matters just as much as how well we're controlling the bacteria in the mouth. So being very, very mindful of those things, getting a checkup as, regularly to spot signs of inflammation as early as possible in the mouth really, really goes a long way to catching these things early.
So I got a question for you. I'm curious. When I eat sugar often, I get this feeling specifically in the back of my mouth, like in the teeth in the back portion of my mouth, where it almost feels like the sugar is rotting away the tooth. I feel it on the nerve almost. It's like this weird feeling, almost like when you eat like Pop Rocks, the candy, and it sizzles and it feels like something's going on back there. What am I feeling there? Like, what's actually going on when I have that feeling? Is that a feeling of the tooth being rotted away? Is it a feeling of the nerve being stimulated by the sugar? Like, what's actually going on there?
And this happens to you every time you eat sugar?
I mean, it feels like it gets caked down. I tend to chew it in the back of my mouth, and it tends to get caked on and I wonder if that's a function of the fact that I have a lot of dental work back there and I have these crowns and it's just sensitive to it. But it literally, I get this feeling in my head, like it feels like it's eating it away. It's very strange.
That's
not normal.
Not for everyone. That could be something as simple as the fact that you do have, like you said, dental work and the sugar, right? So let's think about the things that are sugar laden, right? Candies, sweets, things that tend to be very sticky and mushy and find their way into like nooks and crannies, right? So it's possible that you're just physically like mashing a lot of this food product in there and it's giving you that sensation. Sugar, when we do have cavities that are brewing, sugar can be one of the things that triggers some sensitivity. Just like drinking cold water can sometimes let you know, oh, there's something going on back there. Sugar can be one of those triggers as well. So it's possible that maybe there's something like that going on, but most likely, it's hard to feel the sugar kind of doing its thing and causing the breakdown. But you, Mr. Wolf, just might be so in tune with your bodily process.
Hyper aware.
Yeah, so hyper aware that you feel it happening.
Awareness. I can feel the sugar rotting away in my teeth as I eat. It's a good deterrent though, because I feel it. Like, that's gross.
That's
whatever
great.
that feeling is, I want to cut that out. That's when I grab a bag of grapes and I go. Another thing I read in the blog, which I found interesting, was you were talking about TMJ, which, if I'm not mistaken, is lockjaw, right?
So lockjaw is one of the things that falls under TMJ, right? TMJ is kind of a catch-all term, and TMJ stands for temporomandibular joint, right? It's the fancy name for your jaw joint.
Is that like clicking when you click?
So clicking is TMJ is what we kind of call everything. It's a catch-all term, right? The proper term is TMJ dysfunction, and then that's the umbrella term for anything that is not quite right with the jaw. Right. And that manifests different for different people. It could be clicking or popping of the jaw. It can be jaw pain, right? It can be as extreme as headaches and migraines, or things like broken, cracked, worn teeth, right? So the jaw joint is a very sophisticated joint in the body. It has a lot of different movements and a lot of things that can, unfortunately go wrong with it. And we all kind of have our own point of failure, so to speak, right? For some people, it's the jaw joint itself, and they will develop things like arthritis and joint breakdown.
All right. So let's talk solutions here. If I read you correctly, you're not saying no sugar, just smarter sugar, right?
Yeah. Smarter sugar, less sugar, right?
Less Skittles.
Less Skittles, more grapes. So, practical, tactical tips, right? Like I said earlier, when you go shopping, when you go grocery shopping, shop the perimeter, right? Stay away from those middle aisles where the bags, the boxes, the bottles are. One of my biggest hacks is avoiding sugary drinks, right? Like if you really want to mainline sugar, fruit
Grab a Coke.
juices, sodas, things like that, Gatorade, right? Like drink Gatorade if you're actually running, a 10K and you need that sugar and you need those electrolytes. Otherwise, it's just poison water, right? Think of it that way. You'll cut down on how much you want to drink it. Energy drinks, right? Lots of sugar in those. So cutting down on those things is generally a great idea. Some practical like food swaps, right? Like I'm a big fan of flavored sparkling waters. Publix actually has an amazing orange one. Highly recommend. My kids love it. Like they'll take that over a Coke any day, right? And it's zero sugar. There's no additives, no sodium. So it is a really good replacement for when you would have a Coke.
Yeah. I was going to say, the thing is, I just made that switch recently. I started drinking less and less soda, and I bought some sparkling water, Perrier type stuff. And over time, you get used to it to the point where when you go back and you actually have a Coke, it's like overwhelmingly sweet and like it's just off-putting at that point. So yeah,
it's almost like the person who quits smoking and then is around smokers and can't stand the smoke.
That should tell you how powerful and toxic sugar can be, because we think we talk about addiction, and it doesn't seem like you wouldn't equate that necessarily to sugar. Sugar is addictive. I mean, whatever, it's just sugar. You reserve addiction to cigarettes and things like that. But
heroin.
But it really is a sneaky killer.
Yeah, it really is. And like baseline things like stay hydrated, right? Like eat balanced meals so that you don't get those intense cravings. And speaking from personal experience, when you cut down on the sugar, it's gonna be tough for the first 2-3 days, and then days 4, 5, and 6 for me were almost harder than days 1, 2, and 3, because day 1, 2, and 3 you've got that gusto and that impetus to really gonna make this lifestyle change, and then day 4, 5, and 6 you're like, but damn, do I really want to make this lifestyle change? I could sure use a cookie right about now. And then you kind of break through that point, and you start forgetting about sugar, right? Like you start losing those cravings, and it takes a week or two to like bleed out of your system. But once it does, man, like I'll tell you, like it's not even a point of contention. Like you want to go have a snack, cashews became my replacement for Skittles. So late at night, if I'm up watching a game or something and I want a snack, cashews, right? And you make substitutions for things that are a lot better for you.
Yeah. Good choices, my friend. Good choices. So how do you integrate these conversations without sounding cliche, right? When you have a patient, like, don't take, watch your sugar intake because you're going to get a lot of cavities. How do you integrate that into your practice and really have meaningful conversations with patients that you see relatively infrequently, right? You're going to come in every 6 months for a checkup, a cleaning. How do you really have these conversations in a way that resonates? And I like what you said about your fork matters as much as your toothbrush. So that's a cool way to put it.
Yeah. And little things like that, right? That just kind of put things in perspective for folks. We at the practice, we really focus on education on all fronts, not just dental, but overall health. So just having the conversations with people, right? Like the more we hear these things from different sources, like the more weight we put on it, the more research we start doing ourselves, right? And I'm not anticipating or planning or even hoping to have anyone make 180-degree drastic lifestyle change by having a 5-minute conversation with me about their diet. But I hope to open their eyes a little bit more, right? And the next time maybe we have another conversation, or they have a conversation with a buddy of theirs who had a conversation with one of their doctors or heard something on the internet, right? And the awareness just starts evolving and growing, right? It's not flipping a switch, right?
Yeah.
It's a gradual improvement in our lifestyle. And we're really not looking for perfection. We're aiming for progress.
And people don't want to be told not to do a thing, right? There's a big difference between coming and say like, you need to not have any more sugar because blah, 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 as opposed to just having conversations around these types of subjects and raising awareness so that people can come to the conclusion in their own mind that they need to stop doing it and not be told.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for us as providers in general to not come at things from a holier than thou point of view, right? Because we all have our hangups, right? We all have our vices. For some of us, it's sugar. For others, it's smoking. It's alcohol. Like no one's perfect, right? So no one's preaching from an ivory tower. Like,
speak
hey,
for yourself. Speak for yourself, brother. I'm a fine specimen.
Right,
my doctor the other day
of my vast imperfections. So I think it's really important that we have just honest human conversations with people. It's like, hey, this is bad for us, right? And these are the different ways that it's bad for us. And making little subtle changes can sometimes have a really big impact on not only your current health, but your health span, right? Like these are decisions that we want to make now that sort of affect us right now, but really affect us 20 years from now. So little course corrections frequently get us to a much more desirable destination.
So I will leave you at this. I went in for a physical the other day, and my doctor did tell me, and these were her words. She said, "What have you been doing? You're perfect."
Ooh.
Mic drop. I walked out. I'm good to go.
There you go. You are perfect, Mr. Wolf.
Perfect specimen. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This was really, really fun. If you're out there listening, if you enjoyed this content, please don't forget to like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. We always like to hear your feedback. If you've had any personal experiences with these topics, let us know about it in the comments. We love to get outside perspectives. And if we missed anything, let us know, and we will dig into it on future episodes. Everyone, take care. Have a wonderful day and stay healthy. We only got this one life to live. Let's live it to the fullest.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Semidey Dental Podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on social media for the latest episodes. You can find us at Semidey Dental. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. We're always happy to help. Until then, keep smiling and stay curious.